the Department of Agriculture Food Safety issued a public health alert on fully cooked pork carnitas that may be contaminated with pieces of metal.
A whistleblower from inside one of America's largest grocery chains just revealed shocking footage of meat departments deliberately ignoring safety protocols that are designed to protect your family. The evidence is disturbing, and what's happening at store number 3 will make you question everything you thought you knew about grocery store meat safety. Today I'm exposing the 5 grocery stores where buying pork could turn your family dinner into a medical emergency. These aren't isolated incidents, they're systematic failures that put your children at risk every single day. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe because what you're about to learn could prevent your family from becoming another foodborne illness statistic. The information in this video could literally save lives. Let's start with the most dangerous offender. Walmart's pork problem isn't just about handling, it's about what's already in the meat before it reaches the store. A 2024 investigation by the Environmental Working Group found that Walmart's pork contains some of the highest levels of antibiotic-resistant bacteria in the grocery industry. The issue stems from Walmart's supplier network. To meet their aggressive pricing demands, Walmart sources from industrial pork operations that rely heavily on routine antibiotic use. These facilities pump pigs full of antibiotics not to treat illness, but to promote faster growth and prevent disease in overcrowded conditions. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a microbiologist who studied Walmart's pork supply chain, explained the danger. When you cook pork that contains antibiotic-resistant bacteria, normal cooking temperatures might kill most pathogens, but the resistant strains can survive. If cross-contamination occurs in your kitchen, you could be dealing with infections that don't respond to standard treatments. A former Walmart meat buyer revealed the company's sourcing strategy. Price was everything. We'd work with suppliers that other chains wouldn't touch because their antibiotic use was so extreme. As long as it passed basic USDA inspection and hit our cost targets, we'd buy it. The temperature violations at Walmart are staggering. Mystery shoppers using professional-grade thermometers found pork products sitting at temperatures as high as 48 degrees Fahrenheit in stores across multiple states. Food safety experts are clear. Pork must be kept at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below to prevent dangerous bacterial growth. That 8-degree difference might seem minor, but it's enough to turn safe pork into a breeding ground for pathogens in just a few hours. A former Walmart meat department supervisor from Texas revealed the pressure that leads to these violations. Management made it clear that empty shelves were unacceptable, period. If the refrigerated truck was delayed, if our coolers were malfunctioning, if we were short-staffed, none of that mattered. Product had to be on display, even when we knew the conditions weren't safe. The human cost of this policy became clear in 2022, when a family in Oklahoma was hospitalized after eating Walmart pork that had been temperature abused during transport. The children, ages 6 and 9, spent 3 days in intensive care with severe food poisoning. The family had followed all cooking instructions, but the contamination had already occurred before they ever brought the meat home. Testing by independent labs found that 73% of Walmart pork samples contained bacteria resistant to at least one class of antibiotics, compared to 31% at higher-end retailers. For families with young children or elderly members, this isn't just a quality issue. It's a health crisis waiting to happen. The most disturbing finding was the presence of MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, in 12% of Walmart pork samples. MRSA infections can be life-threatening and are notoriously difficult to treat. Finding it in grocery store pork represents a fundamental breakdown in food safety. Kroger has perfected the art of making old pork look fresh through a controversial process called modified atmosphere packaging. They inject carbon monoxide into pork packages to maintain that appealing pink color long after the meat has started to deteriorate. This process, while legal, is essentially cosmetic fraud. The carbon monoxide binds to the meat's proteins, creating a bright red color that can last for weeks, even as the pork spoils. Customers think they're buying fresh meat when they're actually getting products that may be days or weeks old. A former Kroger meat department manager exposed the practice. We called it the magic gas. Pork that should have been thrown away would get the CO treatment and go right back on the shelf, looking better than when it was actually fresh. Customers had no idea they were buying old meat. The danger isn't just about quality, it's about safety. Normal spoilage indicators like color changes and texture shifts are masked by the carbon monoxide treatment. Customers can't rely on their senses to determine freshness, leading to situations where spoiled pork gets consumed. Independent testing found that Kroger's CO-treated pork had bacterial counts up to 10 times higher than untreated pork of the same apparent quality. The visual freshness was completely disconnected from actual safety. For parents choosing Kroger's Simple Truth organic line, the premium pricing doesn't guarantee premium safety. Multiple customers have reported finding organic pork with slimy textures and off odors, despite being within expiration dates. The organic label creates a false sense of security that can mask underlying handling problems. The practice is particularly deceptive with ground pork, where the CO treatment can make rancid meat appear fresh and appetizing. Several food poisoning cases have been linked to Kroger's CO-treated ground pork that looked perfect, but was actually teeming with harmful bacteria. Kroger's in-store ground pork has been linked to several foodborne illness outbreaks, including a 2022 salmonella outbreak that affected 47 people across 3 states. The company's practice of grinding multiple pork cuts together means that if any component is contaminated, entire batches become unsafe. Consumer advocacy groups have called for banning CO treatment in meat packaging, but Kroger continues the practice because it dramatically reduces waste and increases profits. They're essentially transferring the risk from their bottom line to your dinner table. Food Lion's pork problem is straightforward but shocking. They systematically relabel expired meat with new dates to extend shelf life and avoid losses. This practice, exposed by multiple former employees, turns every pork purchase into a game of Russian roulette. The scheme works like this. When pork approaches its expiration date, employees remove it from shelves, repackage it with new labels showing extended dates, and put it back out for sale. Sometimes they'll trim off obviously spoiled portions, but the underlying meat remains past its safe consumption period. A former Food Lion meat wrapper from South Carolina provided documentation of the practice. We had quotas for how much meat we could throw away each week. If we went over, managers would make us repackage expired stuff with new dates. I kept photos because I knew it was wrong. The relabeling isn't random. It follows a systematic pattern designed to maximize profits while minimizing obvious spoilage. Pork that's 2 to 3 days past expiration gets relabeled with dates 4 to 5 days in the future. Customers think they're buying fresh meat with plenty of shelf life remaining. The practice is particularly dangerous with ground pork, which spoils faster than whole cuts. Food Lion employees report being instructed to mix fresh ground pork with expired product to average out the age, creating batches where some portions are safe, while others are potentially dangerous. The staffing situation at Food Lion is a food safety disaster waiting to happen. Stores routinely operate with single employees managing entire meat departments during off-peak hours. These workers are expected to unload deliveries, stock shelves, help customers, clean equipment, and maintain safety logs. When one person is doing the job of 5, food safety becomes impossible to maintain. Equipment failures are endemic at Food Lion locations. Multiple former employees report coolers that couldn't maintain consistent temperatures, freezers that cycled unpredictably, and backup systems that failed when needed most. When refrigeration fails during overnight hours or weekends, pork can sit at dangerous temperatures for hours before anyone notices. Health department records show that Food Lion has been cited multiple times for improper date labeling. But the fines are so small compared to the money saved that they're treated as a cost of doing business rather than a deterrent. The most disturbing aspect is the training materials. Former employees report receiving explicit instructions on how to repackage expired meat without getting caught, including techniques for making old pork look fresh and guidelines for which products could be safely relabeled versus which should be discarded. Giant's unique problem stems from their full-service meat departments, where the same equipment processes beef, pork, and poultry throughout the day, with minimal cleaning between proteins. This creates a cross-contamination nightmare that can turn safe pork into a vehicle for dangerous pathogens. The issue is particularly severe with their custom cutting services. Customers can request specific cuts, but the equipment used has often processed other meats without proper sanitization. A pork chop cut on equipment that previously handled contaminated chicken can become dangerous, even if the pork itself was initially safe. A former Giant butcher revealed the extent of the problem. We were supposed to sanitize between different meats, but during busy periods, we'd just rinse the equipment and keep going. The same grinder that did beef in the morning would do pork in the afternoon with maybe a quick spray down in between. A former Giant meat department manager from Pennsylvania revealed the extent of the inconsistency. Corporate would send safety guidelines, but enforcement varied completely by location. Some stores followed every protocol religiously, others did whatever was convenient. Families shopping at different locations were getting completely different safety standards. The cross-contamination risk extends to display cases, where juices from different meats can mix and spread pathogens. Giant's practice of displaying different proteins in adjacent cases without adequate barriers means that contamination from one product can affect everything nearby. Salmonella and E. coli, typically associated with poultry and beef respectively, have been found in Giant's pork products due to cross-contamination. This creates unexpected health risks because consumers cooking pork to safe internal temperatures might not be prepared for pathogens that require different handling. Temperature control varies dramatically between Giant locations. Some stores maintain excellent refrigeration, while others struggle with decades-old equipment that's inadequate for modern food safety requirements. The company's reluctance to invest in infrastructure upgrades means some families are unknowingly shopping in stores with fundamentally compromised safety systems. Giant's ground pork has been linked to multiple foodborne illness outbreaks in recent years. Their practice of grinding pork from various sources, combined with inconsistent cleaning protocols, creates conditions where contamination can spread rapidly. Several customers have reported finding foreign objects in ground pork, including plastic fragments and metal pieces. Safeway's pork problem is the most insidious because it's largely invisible to consumers. They source significant amounts of pork from foreign suppliers with questionable safety standards, then repackage it to appear domestic. The practice involves importing pork from countries with less stringent food safety regulations, then processing it through USDA-inspected facilities to give it the appearance of domestic production. While technically legal, this process obscures the true origin of the meat and its associated risks. A former Safeway procurement manager revealed the strategy. We could get pork from certain countries for 40% less than domestic suppliers. As long as it went through a USDA facility for final processing, we could label it as processed in USA without mentioning where it actually came from. The imported pork often comes from facilities that use production methods banned in the United States, including certain growth hormones and antibiotics. While these substances might be metabolized by the time the meat reaches consumers, residues can remain and accumulate over time. The most troubling aspect of Safeway's operation is their recall communication strategy. When pork products are recalled due to contamination, Safeway buries information on obscure website pages rather than posting prominent store warnings. A 2023 analysis found that fewer than 12% of Safeway customers knew about a major pork recall that occurred while they were actively shopping. A former Safeway district manager revealed the company's approach. Legal was very clear. Meet minimum recall requirements, but don't make it a big deal. Handle problems quietly and move on. They never seemed to consider that families needed to know about contamination risks. Quality control is another major concern. Foreign suppliers may not follow the same testing protocols as domestic producers, meaning contaminated pork can enter the supply chain without detection. Several foodborne illness outbreaks have been traced to imported pork that passed initial inspections but contain dangerous pathogens. The repackaging process at Safeway facilities can introduce additional contamination risks. Pork that was safely packaged at the source can become contaminated during reprocessing, especially if equipment isn't properly sanitized between batches. Consumer advocacy groups have criticized Safeway's labeling practices, arguing that customers have a right to know the true origin of their meat. The company's response has been to meet minimum legal requirements while providing as little information as possible about sourcing. Modified atmosphere packaging at Safeway presents unique risks for families. This technology extends shelf life by altering gas composition around meat, but it can mask spoilage signs that parents would normally notice. Pork that appears fresh might actually be well past its prime, creating dangerous situations for unsuspecting families. Now that you've seen what's happening at these 5 chains, it's crucial to understand why pork contamination is so dangerous for families. Unlike beef, which can be safely consumed at medium temperatures, pork contamination spreads quickly and can cause severe illness even when cooked to recommended temperatures. When grocery stores cut corners with pork handling, they're not just risking customer satisfaction, they're risking your family's health. The USDA receives over 3,000 complaints annually about pork safety at major grocery chains, but these numbers represent only reported incidents. Most families who get sick from contaminated pork never connect their illness to the store where they shopped. They assume it was something they did wrong, when in reality, the contamination happened long before the meat reached their kitchen. What's most troubling is that safe pork handling isn't expensive or complicated. It just requires stores to follow established protocols. But the chains we've discussed have chosen to prioritize speed and profit margins over the safety of the families they serve. Pork contamination is particularly dangerous for the family members we most want to protect. Children, elderly relatives, and anyone with compromised immune systems face severe health risks from pathogens that healthy adults might fight off. When stores prioritize profits over safety protocols, they're gambling with the health of our most vulnerable family members. The solution isn't avoiding pork. It's becoming an informed advocate for your family's safety. Here are the warning signs every parent should recognize. Temperature check. Trust your instincts. If a meat case doesn't feel properly cold, find another store. Pork should be stored at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Anything warmer puts your family at risk. Package integrity. Examine packages carefully for tears, punctures, or excessive liquid. Damaged packaging means compromised safety. If you wouldn't serve it to your own children, don't buy it. Visual inspection. Fresh pork should be pale pink to light red. Avoid anything that's gray, brown, or has a slimy texture. Trust your parental instincts. If something looks wrong, it probably is. Smell test. Fresh pork should have minimal odor. If you detect sour, ammonia-like, or other unpleasant smells, protect your family by choosing something else. Expiration vigilance. Check both sell-by and use-by dates, choosing packages with the furthest dates. Be suspicious of meat that's been repackaged or relabeled. It may have been sitting longer than the new date suggests. Shopping strategy. Shop for pork last, transport it quickly, and refrigerate immediately. Even brief exposure to warm temperatures can compromise safety. Source alternatives. Consider supporting local butcher shops where quality control is more transparent and food safety is often taken more seriously than at corporate chains. Remember, you're not just a customer, you're a parent protecting your family. Every decision you make in the grocery store affects the people you love most. When stores fail to prioritize safety, vote with your wallet and find retailers who understand that your family's health is non-negotiable. The grocery chains we've exposed today have shown they're willing to gamble with family safety for profit margins. As a parent, you have the power to demand better. Your family deserves pork that's not just affordable, but safe. Please like, subscribe, and don't let corporate shortcuts put the people you love at risk. See you next time.